welcome to another exciting episode of Token Cast Reviews. I'm your host and sometimes referee, the friendly neighborhood, Zach Sapp Pearson. Except no substitutes, now with pomegranate. Because I realized I hadn't had one in 15 years. And today, I'm joined by he who is legend. He who is depressed. Because he plays the new patch from Tekken 8, a one Pike.
How's it going, everybody?
And of course, where would we be if it wasn't for our resident analytical mind and nerd supreme himself, man who was going to hear at least 4 or 5 puns relating to himself today, a one Scare Shuffle.
I do too many things with numbers.
Hey, you knew what you signed up for. All right, so disclaimer for those who are uninitiated and whatnot. Quick reminder. The reason you don't see footage from the fucking movie showing up is because although I am not Angry Joe, I am Angry Zax. And Angry Zax does not like having to do habitual repeats of having his shit taken down. Because YouTube, or an automated bot that talks to YouTube, decides a trailer put on loop, which I'm allowed to do by both the law and common sense with a promotional trailer for the movie that we are going to discuss, Thunderbolts. And Bob, I'm only going to be using a static image as well as a live Discord screen because I am not going through that bullshit again. Now, for those who are new here, and which is, well, everybody but me, every so often at random, sometimes the same day or sometimes months down the line, I can get copyright striked temporarily just by utilizing the promotional trailers with no music and sound effects in the background during any of my reviews. Just a quick example. Mind you, we didn't say anything negative about it. The show Dave, featuring Little Dicky as producer and writer, yeah, it got taken down 9 times over the course of 48 hours. 9 times. Before it stayed up. But that's nothing in comparison to Angry Joe. Ho, ho, ho. Angry Zax ain't got nothing on Angry Joe. He just had a video taken down 16 times in one day. That has to be a record. Yeah, so stop moving the fucking screen. So we will instead be using a promo image featuring the characters from the movie who didn't wear anything that we're seeing on screen right now. Except for John Walker. Because he's a bitch. Fuck you, John. It's kind of weird. I actually hate him in the comic, too. That's some good casting.
I like him in the comic because he's an asshole.
Yeah, well, I call that the Cartman effect. So, yeah, good casting on that one. Because I fucking hate Johnny Walker. But I hate him because the actor did a good job. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and let Scare Shuffle go first because that opens him up to potentially activating my trap cards filled with puns relating to him. So I'm gonna go ahead and put myself on mute and I'm gonna sip my little drink. And yeah, let us know how you feel. Just remember, pros first, cons second.
Yeah. So, okay. I quite enjoyed this movie. I wasn't really blown away by any means, but it was a very nice, refreshing thing from Marvel. Like, as for, like, the story it was telling involved actually tackling subjects that, while have been tackled way better in other movies, for a major multi-million-dollar motion picture from the Disney Corporation, did a really damn good job with what I was given. Like, it was, I was honestly very surprised. And I say this as someone who is a giant fan of, can I rip the Band-Aid off, Zax? I know this is spoiler, there are no, spoilers are not, this ain't spoiler free, but I'm immediately gonna rip that Band-Aid off.
I mean, you might as well.
Okay, yeah, I mean, everyone knew anyway. Sentry. I am a giant Sentry fan. Like, I have my own mental health issues, and I have always heavily related and liked the character of Sentry. However, oddly enough, I did not like him in the thing that this movie decided to take its asterisk name from. And I'm bringing that Band-Aid off now. This movie is actually called The New Avengers, of which, to be honest, I hate that they're going around removing it everywhere and saying, oh, it's The New Avengers, you should actually go see it. I get why they're doing it from a marketing standpoint, but come on, man. And, like, to be honest, yeah, it kind of feels like that a little bit in the movie. There were multiple times throughout the movie before that reveal of the title where I meant, man, this really feels like the 2012 Avengers movie to a degree. Like, we're going backwards, but in a good way. But in the comics, when they brought Sentry into the New Avengers, where Brian Michael Bendis was writing, I hated what he did with that character. I only have liked the Sentry when written by his original creator, Paul Jenkins. And to be honest, I got some of that in this, in both the plot and the story. So basically, for those who aren't aware, the plot of the movie is basically, hey, Miss Seinfeld over there, because I don't know her name in the movie, so I'm just going to call her Miss Seinfeld, because that's literally what I know her from. Louise Dreyfus is basically like, oh shit, the government's fucking investigating me for all this illegal crap I'm doing. Hey, Thunderbolts, your final mission is go kill this person at this location, and they're all meant to kill each other. And they find Bob, and basically it's about them surviving and trying to get rid of that, and then Miss Seinfeld convinces Bob to join her, and then he goes on a power trip and becomes the Void. And there was a part in this movie where I actually almost felt a tear come, because it was reminding me of why I liked the character in the first place. Everything leading up to this I thought was going to be bad. I was expecting Sentry to be done horribly from day one, and I was very pleasantly surprised. Is it a good Sentry adaptation? On paper, no. Is it a good adaptation in the sense of what are you going to expect from the Walt Disney Corporation? Yes. And like all the other characters, like, yes, like everyone's saying, Florence Pugh, Yelena is like the heart of the movie. She is the main character.
Hey,
she's great.
Just a quick little interjection. Make sure you put your grade up in the category once you state your grade.
Yep. Getting there. But like overall, the characters were good. Like Yelena Red Guardian was quite a fan of that. I liked U.S. Agent in the movie because he was a piece of shit. That's what he should have been. Ghost was there, I guess. I'll let Taskmaster be talked about by Zax, and I'll have some things to say myself, because I'm a giant fan of comic book Taskmaster. But let's just say this version of Taskmaster got done so dirty in the best way possible. And that is my oxymoron. So, like, overall, the plot and story, I gotta say, realistically, it's probably a solid B- or B or B-. I'm going to...
I think his mic just cut out.
No, it's essentially on push to talk, and I'm trying to type.
Yeah, you're laying on the decimal key. Use capital letters, please. Now,
there we go.
Did you already?
I'm giving it a B. I'm giving the plot and story a B+, because there were still parts where, like, yeah, this is kind of generic. Yeah, this is that seems right. Yep, saw that coming. But overall, I'm giving it a B+. Because in my own personal ranking, I'd say it's a high 7. But so for music and sound effects, not really much for me to say. It's serviceable. It does its job. I'm going to also give it a B+. Like, I don't really have too much to say in regards to the music or sound effects. It was there. It was solid. They did their job. Nothing blew me away or anything, but I was very happy. Cast and characters. like I kind of just went through all of this individually as I was kind of saying, breaking everything down. Cast and characters, A minus. Like, great job. I have some issues, but like for what I would expect given what this movie is, it is an A minus. So let me. VFX. So here's the thing with VFX. There weren't as many as one would think. Like, there were plenty, but there was a lot of practical stunts in this mixed with VFX. And fucking thank you for doing that. My God, have I been missing practical effects in Hollywood? To get that nowadays, I have to watch, like, indie movies or, like, lower budget things. Thank God for... Like, I'm just going to leave it at that. There are some cool action pieces that, like, the VFX add to. Like, there's not really... But I'm going to give that, honestly, just because it's Marvel and how low the bar has been for them, I'm going to give it an A.
Oh my God. I can't tell whose side you're on. Don't get me wrong. I've never accused you of being an ass kisser for bad media. But then when it come to Marvel, you are just like on some other shit, I swear.
I changed my mind. Cinematography as a whole. So looking at this as cinematography, like from what we're talking, mind you, I am reviewing this movie as what it is, a Marvel movie, not a movie. If I was going to rate this as a like normal ass movie and not like a giant whatever meant for en masse audience, trust me, this would be a lot. These scores would be lower. But I am judging the movie for what it is and trying to be, not what I would like it to be.
Funny, that sounds almost like a 180 from what you said about Captain America 4.
I know, right?
Yeah, it sounds very similar to what I said, motherfucker. I feel like I'm owed some back pay.
Yeah, but you see, the difference is its plot did not, even by giant Disney standards for that, they did not deliver, even by what's expected of the Disney Corporation. Like, they failed at that.
Forgot who I was talking to.
Yeah. So, but overall, how's the film put together? B+. Like, just everything all said and done, I think we're going with a B+.
So did you go through your cons every single letter grade, or are you going to go through your cons now?
I'm just going to quickly rush through the cons.
Okay.
1, Ghost. What were you doing there? That was cool, I guess. You did some shit, I guess. Would have liked some more details there, but okay. Honestly, I would have liked more U.S. agent, just because, like, he got enough. I think I would have liked a little more. I honestly would have liked to see... I'm sorry. I would have liked to see, honestly, each of these characters go through their individual void rooms. Because there's a scene in the movie where, like, you learn that Yelena is like, oh, the void is showing you, like, your worst parts of your life. Would have loved to see it for, like, Alexei and Bucky and literally all of them. But,
now you know damn well we're going to get a director's cut Blu-ray 4K.
Yeah, I'm still not fully sure those will be there, but we can dream. And then Bucky was there, I guess, you know. Even, like, in the post-credit scene where he was, like, the Avenger, like, he didn't feel like he was here willingly. I don't know, man. But, and then my cons also are just like what I was saying on Sentry earlier. He's not what I want, but, you know, he's way better than I was expecting. And yeah, that's just kind of the gist of everything. And then, like, yeah, no, I don't got much else.
Okay, well, for the record, you can go to IMDb, look up the cast list, and copy and paste it in the chat if you're trying to figure out a character's name. Miss DeFontaine is one of those characters that I knew she was going to do exactly what I wanted her to do, and I'm here for it. I'm just waiting till she becomes the leader of Hydra. Oh no, spoilers, even though the character was always that. So yeah. All right, so it's my turn. Let me get on my text thingamabob. All right, so for me, plot and story, I'm gonna put it right over the Red Guardian's big old forehead. I'm giving it the A, because legitimately there was one thing that pissed me off and I didn't see it coming, and I'm mad about it because it seems like plot convenience, but also at the same time they fixed the one thing that I wanted Marvel to fix since it showed up. They killed the character I fucking can't stand being in the MCU. Oh my god, I'm so happy. I know that sounds fucked up, but if you know the history of Taskmaster, you know that motherfucker shouldn't have even happened in the format that they did.
Seconded.
Now, I know that requires a tiny little bit of backstory, but I'm gonna just tell y'all real quick for the uninitiated Pike. The Taskmaster is supposed to be a SHIELD agent who, much like so many other characters before him, took an experimental version of super soldier serum. However, it gave him superhuman reflexes and physical copying abilities and destroyed his long-term and short-term memory. Literally, like, this motherfucker will not be able to remember what they ate for breakfast at lunch. That is not hyperbole. This particular person ends up marrying a SHIELD agent who ends up giving birth to someone who joins the Young Avengers. But because they chose this random motherfucker who out of nowhere, who has never been a Taskmaster or took the title of Taskmaster or is of relation to the character of Taskmaster, they essentially erased the Avenger before they were even born. Unnecessarily. And I use that term strongly because here's the thing. When you are in the secret agent world of Marvel, you don't just have supervillains. You can have regular people who just have access to money and are war criminals or just assholes be your primary villains. They could have made someone up or grabbed Miss DeFontaine right here, and they could have put her in the same slot that this random fat Joe Schmo that no one gives a fuck about, looking like the oldest stereotype that I've ever seen for a middle-aged man born in the 70s or the 80s and shit. But no, we don't even have a logical reason why that guy was the fucking main villain of the movie. Oh, he owns the Red Room. Well, Russia owns the Red Room, so wouldn't the main villain be some allegory for Putin? Why was that guy, which would have made sense, not a villain? No, it's this random schmo who looks like some used car dealership salesman stereotype with too much money and time on his hands in California from like the 70s or the 80s. And I had a problem with that from the day one. Taskmaster is not even a villain that matches Black Widow. And that motherfucker got shot in the head in the first, 15 minutes?
15, 20, something like that.
One of the best parts of the movie. Anyways, but where I have an issue, and this is where my con comes in, I'm going to switch over. No, let me just keep going through the good points besides murder. So the practical effects thing doesn't bother me. First and foremost, most people can't even tell when they're truly looking at practical effects, and most practical effects aren't practical by themselves. They're a hybrid. They're a mix of practical effects and some form of CG related objects and items, usually gun flare, muzzle fire. That's right, even Hollywood's not using a lot of blanks. And no, it's not because of that unfortunate incident that happened with Alec Baldwin. Just want to get that out the way now. So, now with that being said, it works here because you need to have that mix. That's what made when the Hulk, Thor, and when the Hulk, Thor, and Captain America met each other work. Because you can see the realism in what Captain America is doing. But then you turn over to the Hulk and Thor. I mean, not the Hulk, the Thor getting accidentally charging up Iron Man and then hitting his shield, creating that giant, effect. It works. And this movie is one of the only times I've seen them get it close to perfect again outside of the final fight in Captain America 4. Right? This is one of the only times. the characters have a human element to them, and the great crisis they're trying to stop is not inherently a super villain for the majority of the movie. It's getting along with each other's, trying not to have clashing personalities, and dealing with human-based threats. That's why, and people always said, no, that can't work. I was like, dumbass, you didn't watch The Defenders, Jessica Jones, season 2 of Iron Fist, specifically season 2, Luke Cage, Daredevil. Like, shut up about it has to be super off the wall, over the top. This is how you know you're talking to someone who goes off of what the internet tells them about a Marvel movie, regardless of if they're telling the truth or they're paid to be a piece of shit, which, as we've already disclosed, but you two weren't here, there are companies that pay people to just shit on Marvel on YouTube. Specifically the movies, too. So, fucking, it was perfect how they blended the story with how the characters act. Now, as far as cons, fucking plot contrivance shit. Okay, look. First off, there is not a balance of character development. But to be fair, these are the Thunderbolts. They are supposed to be inherently dysfunctional. Yelena character development is directly and indirectly tied into Red Guardians. Red Guardian's character essentially has not changed. The only thing that happened was we got a character explanation for him, whereas with her, we got character development. But they both trigger each other's situation that causes that. That is good writing. I would call that symbiotic character writing or synergistic character writing. One person specifically is triggering these moments in the other person. Moments of vulnerability. Bucky got glossed over, but to be fair, I'm okay with that. You know why? Because he had an entire TV show where he went through that shit. The audience who's watching, I've seen them, people came out, well, they didn't really go anything about Bucky's past. I'm like, motherfucker, did you not see the show? And no, they didn't see the show. They didn't. But they could have at least given us one flashback.
That's what, yeah.
Where him and Chris Evans, Captain America, fucking just have that conversation. Remember, there's a 5-year time gap. A 5-year time gap. Not a 5-year, what was it? A 2-year time gap after Civil War. There's 2 years or something like that. They're over in Wakanda together. You think they didn't catch up? The only time we've seen those two catch up without there being some big threat of crisis is when they're literally in the back of a fucking jet. Like, man, I just thought about those two girls on the ferry. Man, they were really hot. If they're alive, Steve, if they're alive, they'd be 90. Yeah, but they were hot. See, shit like that. That can only happen naturally when it's two characters who know each other. Those two specifically, despite literally being the best friends almost out of any group of characters in this entire franchise in MCU land, have not had that moment. And even if it ended with turning into him reminiscing about the people he killed and Chris Evans being like, you disgust me, you're nothing like me, you're everything I don't stand for, something like that, I should have killed you and had a chance, that would have been cool, even if it was only for 30 seconds. We already know Chris Evans got no problem doing cameos for Marvel movies. So, and the last thing, because this is the one where I couldn't give it the A+. This is where I had to give it the A-. Oops. A-. There you go. Bro. So you telling me DeFontaine and everybody in that room knows this dude is nigh invulnerable and he's possibly as powerful as Thor or more powerful than Thor, and they acknowledge he is on a god level of power, and they see him turn people to ash, human stained corpses, and you are fucking telling me Yelena, whose super abilities were literally genetically gifted to her and immediately went into psychological conditioning for the remainder of her childhood, she just thinks to herself, hey guys, what if we don't actually die when we touch this shit? And just does it? Are you serious? That alone was one of the only moments in my brain where I can say, Get the absolute fuck out of here. This whole movie, and not in the comical, ha ha ha, get the fuck out of here, Red Guardian kind of way. That's why I can't give it the perfect mark. Because you have to look at this movie like this is the building of a new team of people who hate themselves as much as they don't trust or respect each other. That's not how the Avengers started. The Avengers basically came together like fucking Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles. I'm okay with that. And it works. But then when you get to this shit where Yelena is like, I'm sometimes suicidal, I'm chronically lonely, I'm telling you this, and I'm sad you don't even get in contact with me, that pissed me off too, because here's the problem. Red Guardian doesn't explain why he ain't been in contact with her. What has this man always said? He treats her and his sister like family. Where is that fucking girl he was supposedly dating? Where did she go? That whole other widow. He's not living with her. There's no mention of her in the entire fucking movie at all. I had to remind people that she even existed. And I'm thinking they're going to start having a relationship because they was implying that they was going to go right back to fucking. And you're telling me we find out now at random he ain't talked to her in a year but had her number? That shit is the problem. But you got to remember, those are things that you only recognize for 30 seconds of a good movie, or when the credits are on, like, wait a minute. He didn't fucking check in on his daughter for a year, but he claims he's her daughter. What the fuck type of shit is that? And then there's no explanation as to why he didn't do it.
As someone who knows a thing or two about having emotionally immature parents, yeah. I understand completely.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But you see, what the problem is that there was no explanation for the behavior. That's where I have an issue with. And then the plot convenience of she just feels, well, what if we don't die if we step on this death, this literal black death? No. If they just had it set up to where he blows something up around them and she falls into it, I would have accepted that. And that would have been a very simple thing to do. Anyways. So yeah, those are my only cons. Now, when it comes to the sound effects and music, I'm going to tell you why I give it the A+. Because it did exactly what the fuck it was supposed to. You got to remember, it's not just this music you hear, it's also the sounds that come out of everything. The gun sound effects, on point. The cavernous hallways and shit from the beginning of the movie that they spend like almost close to half an hour in. Yeah, everything was on point. The sounds worked. The audio team did a damn good job. Because anybody can say an explosion sounded nice in an IMAX theater. Anybody can say a gunshot sounded convincing in an IMAX theater. Okay, what about everything the fuck else? So when the Sentry starts wiping out people, that's when it really hit me. Like a part of me actually squeezed up and clenched every time he turned somebody into ash. And when he turned that little girl into ash, man, oh my God. Because you got to remember, first time you're watching this, we don't know that those people are going to come back. We think that these are burn marks. Because this dude's basically separating their molecules.
Is it bad? I kind of thought immediately, nah, they coming back.
Yes. You already seen two people. You already seen two people die in this movie, and they're not coming back before you got to that point. Actually, technically, you saw 20 die. 2 brain pops, and the rest were in an explosion in the beginning of the movie.
And one person who stole the alias of Taskmaster.
Well, that was the first brain pop. Sorry, second brain pop. That was the second brain pop. Anyways, so, yes, some epic score that everyone remembers. Okay, cool. That's nice. That's not the only thing, though. That's why I keep telling people, don't give music a mess score in a film if you only paid attention to the song in the opening intro or the outro credits. You have to pay attention to everything. They knew when to have music. They knew when to not have music. And the best part of it with the sound effects, bro, this is what made it go from a B+ to an A+. When they were inside of the darkness, all those sounds, all that shit moving around, I was completely drenched. And I saw this movie in IMAX, which is the best audio format to my knowledge that this movie is intended for. They did the damn thing. Now, as far as cons, I ain't got none. It's another reason I got an A+. Now, when it comes to the cast of characters, reminder, I'm grading everyone as a whole. I'm not doing an individual. Okay? Giving it a B plus. I'm going to tell you exactly why I'm doing that. I already said it or implied it, so I don't have to spend too much time on it specifically for this point. Fucking Red Guardian and Yelena's relationship. It keeps not making sense. It worked the first time, but it's weird now, and they never truly addressed the missing gaps. Let me remind y'all something real quick. First movie, Yelena gets back together. The family gets back together. And Black Widow looks at her like, why are you sitting here acting like they were family again? Like, well, what was wrong being a family? I'm not your sister, but you treat me like one. And then when she said, and then when Black Widow made it clear to White Widow straight up, hey, listen, no, none of this is a thing. We're not a family. Fuck the bullshit. I just want to kill these motherfuckers and then get out of this shit. I want to destroy everyone and be done with this. And Yelena's like hurt by it. And we get why she's hurt by it. And what happens? Red Guardian, trying to be the dad that he's not, tries to fix it. And like any comical, oh, dad type moment from an old 80s or 90s show, fucking, he bungles his way through sincerity. And then we get to this movie, and that same dude who wanted to have that family, who literally drove states and states away and pulled strings to be able to get as close to her and her job as possible, and also try to end up being one of her co-workers, hasn't spoken to her in a year. And then Yelena, she wanted to play house. She wants to know what it's like to feel like someone who belongs in a family. She hasn't said those exact words, but that's what it all goes to. You can see it as early as the first movie she shows up in. And look what fucking happens. Look what fucking happens. She just has it out in the middle of the street when she thinks she's going to die. I'm lonely. I'm fucking all this. All blah, 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 blah. I drink myself into not feeling things and trying to go numb. A very common tactic for many people who are depressed. And it's making sense. But then when she drops, you haven't talked to me in a year. Like, first off, why would you not be talking to him in a year too? Why would you not have contacted him in 12 months? You don't tell him where you live. He has your number though. You can visit him whenever you want to, and then you get mad after 12 months? Like, that shit aggravates me even now, because that is literally the only part of the movie where I can go, it wasn't a missed opportunity. This was people were not checking the script hard enough, because that doesn't make sense. And yeah, but again, that's the only bad thing I can say. Winter Soldier is becoming a more established character, and his personality is able to easily be seen. He doesn't want to be in the spotlight and be famous, but at the same time, he knows for the most part, one of the best places he can be is on a team like this. But also, he's always butting heads with Sam Wilson. I like that they're still butting heads. It's fun for me. And I'm talking about since they first were on screen together. This motherfucker said, I don't have any room back here. Can you move your seat up a little bit? And then he just leans back on his ass. That shit. So
I can't believe Sam is suing us. God damn it.
I mean, yeah. I tried talking to him. How'd it go? Not well. See, it just works. And Johnny Walker, I got nothing wrong. I can't say nothing about him because he did everything an asshole Captain America would do. Think he's better than everybody. Be so stupid that he can't tell that he's the worst member of his team, any team he's on. And on top of it, fucking, he is the opposite of the father of the year. And I don't know if you realized it. It was hard to see unless you were in IMAX. But I can kind of tell what he was doing on that phone. He wasn't texting people. He was literally reading comments about him and people shit talking him and dragging him online. He was literally self-doom scrolling. And that shit is dangerous because anybody can go into a negative feedback loop. He was literally the dysfunctional military dad that so many people I met in and out of the military dealt with. He really is. So I can't even say there's nothing wrong with them. And I will say, and this is another one where they can't get the A. Look, let's be honest. Ghost over there, Casper the Friendly Ghost Lady, was a missed opportunity. She's had the least amount of screen time since her inception into the MCU. Of all the characters, she's had the least amount of character development. And on top of it, she also seems like the most polite member of the team. We didn't even explore the fact that she doesn't know if she'll ever know human touch again because she has to live in that suit. We didn't explore if she's getting money to be able to eventually get out of the suit. Is anyone trying to help her get out of the suit? None of that. But then we see her in a brand new suit at the end of the movie. Missed opportunity. But everything for the Sentry went fucking perfect. Like, it went how I wanted it to go in my head, and it outperformed what I thought it would. The only problem I had was that when they made what is Evil Sentry called? I don't know what his actual name is. The Void. Yeah, when the Void shows up, it was so easy to do. All you had to do was make a human who's got fingers that are way too long and his whole body looks like a giant rectangular tree. But instead they turned off all the color on the Sentry. Don't get me wrong. It's still equally as creepy.
It looked cool. I gotta give the SFX artist
I can't get mad at that.
Fucking props.
Exactly.
Like, that looked fucking sick.
You can't get mad at that. But also, the ability to translate it to comic to screen was so easy, and they didn't do it. But again, I ain't complaining because they did such a good fucking job.
I will say, he's only like that in certain comics. Not all of them. Other times, he just looks like Evil Sentry. Like, I like him best when he's the black blob and looks like a demon. Or
yeah, me too.
Fedora.
That's exactly my point. So moving on, VFX. Hey, look, we ain't even got a bullshit, man. We ain't even got a bullshit. We know they got that A. They earned it. They just flat out fucking earned it. They flat out earned that shit. Everything that could go right went right in that situation. When they're doing the car chases, I believed it. When the Winter Soldier yanks a car and it flips over, when the Winter Soldier blocks a van and saves some old people, bro, I believed it. I didn't even think I was looking at like a VFX copy of Sebastian Stan. If anything, I just thought they used something softer than an actual van and then they had VFX to make it look like it flipped over. It looked, bro, nothing went wrong with the VFX. The only time something looked dumb and stupid and it was so insignificant, I can't really fault him for it, was when fucking Red Guardian throws Yelena over a stack of cement wall that hit the ground. I'm like, are you serious? You threw her over there just so she can move people 4 feet out of the way? You serious? She has a super jump, not as good as, Johnny Walker and probably Winter Soldier. That whole shit, it just looked weird. It really did. But if that's the worst I can say, hey, I'm here for it. And I always love those scenes, much like Inception and movies before Inception, where a character walks in a room or falls through something and they're somehow in a brand new place and they do it in like a real-time fake shot. I fucking love those, man. Like for my game, I've been trying to convince them to either have an entire stage or have every single stage have an element like that. Like, I don't know what the studio is going to tell me, but bro, if I can do it, I'm going to do it. So yeah, no cons. The closest thing I got to a con is fucking Johnny Walker's bitch ass. Bro, Yelena's over there having a conversation with Bob. And this motherfucker punched a whole ass exit into the side of a wall that's like 8 feet thick. And nobody heard that it didn't make a sound. Hey, I made an exit. No. But again, so insignificant I can't even fault it. Cinematography, movie as a whole. Okay, look. This is another situation where everything that could go right primarily did. And I saw it in IMAX. So I got the cut of the movie that was visually meant to be framed the way it was. Okay? The only problem, and I think I told Pike this, because this might have been before you were in the group's shuffle. I hate when movies having serious moments, characters aren't moving, but the camera can't fucking be still. Because this shit is not on a gimbal. Or it's not on a quiet wheel system. It pisses me off. Like, I downgrade letter grades for shit like that. If you're in a serious moment, everything's perfectly fine, and the camera has Tourette syndrome, I have a fucking problem with that. Not once was that an issue. Every scene where the camera shook, every scene where there's supposed to be implied speed, falling, all of that shit, it felt right. It felt right. So, believe me when I tell you, the worst I can say about the cinematography in this movie is that the coloration seems a little bit too dark, and that's only near the end of the movie once the void has been unleashed. But to be fair, colors weren't working straight when the void came out. Okay? So, all bullshit aside, again, we're in the territory of this is a situation where I cannot truly fault people. I will say, though, every time they're in that Avengers Tower, the lighting is off. There's supposed to be giant ceiling lighting, but everything is dark and there's barely any light in that room. And even in the post-credit sequence, they're in like what looks like 9 or 10 in the morning. Everybody has dark ass shadows on them and shit. When there's supposed to be giant overhead industrial type lighting. I have an issue with that. But again, that sequence ain't even what? 2 minutes? It's too insignificant to fault it. So, the darkness problem, yes, it did persist through the whole movie. There'll be random scenes where it's too dark. Like, when Yelena goes over to Red Guardian's house, yes, it's nighttime, but they're indoors, and somehow the light source isn't directly above them at all in a house. It's all the way on the opposite side, 2 rooms away from them, and they're too damn dark. You can see all the living room lights on when they first show the scene and you see the limousine and she's knocking on the door, but you go in and those same lights aren't on. So I wouldn't even call that a continuity issue. I would just say there was a lighting problem. There was a lot of shit that looked a little too dark. So I'm giving it the A. Regular old A. Now, with that being said, I'm going to go to mute. And Pike, you can go to voice activity. And you can let us know how you feel. I know this is your first time doing that. So just as a quick reminder, like I said, letter grades only. Start with the pros, end with the cons. And, try to not go past 5 minutes like I fucked up and did per segment.
Yeah, that's not going to be too hard. You guys pretty much touched on everything I was going to touch on. So, I got to go ahead and preface this with, I'm not a fan of this movie. I did not think it was...
Damn.
I'm not a fan.
The hell?
Didn't think it was good. I also
well, to be fair, we are not an echo chamber. So,
I mean, yeah, no, I'm not like saying you should be. I'm just like, damn.
Yeah, which is surprising coming from you of all people, Scare Shuffle.
Yeah, I gotta also preface this with a lot of people like to attribute this style of movie, like compare it to The Winter Soldier. I've seen almost every other Marvel movie, not so much the series. I did watch the Netflix series for a little while, except Iron Fist. I don't claim that.
It's not your fault. Iron Fist was everything that could go wrong with the main character did go wrong, but everything went right for everybody else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they did
as a
my
fan of
boy.
Iron Fist who watched both seasons, can concur.
They did Danny. They did Danny dirty. But what I was
Dirty
getting
Danny.
to was I have never seen The Winter Soldier, and I refuse to watch it.
Why?
I do not like spy movies. I do not like espionage esque movies, no matter how much kung fu is in it. I'm not a fan. The only exception you'll get from me is Enter the Dragon. That is it. Um, with that being
Okay,
said,
so I think you misspoke. You said you don't like spy movies, and then you described a bunch of Asian kung fu movies.
spy movies with kung fu. I'm talking more so the
That's a
street
thing.
level hand to hand combat with Captain America and like the Leaper. Who played the Leaper?
Ah,
What,
one of my favorites.
yeah,
Batroc
Batroc
the
the Leaper.
Leaper.
yeah,
Yeah, that guy
that.
just, that's a whole nother shit. I think Marvel realized that this guy is too much of a fucking dork to be converted into something serious, but now they're stuck with him in MCU.
Yeah,
Nah,
yeah.
they don't need to use him again.
And that was the GSP, the MMA fighter, George St. Pierre, I believe his name was. I think he's the guy who played him. But regardless, yeah, I'm not a fan of this, the intellectual spy thriller, like the who. I mean, I like whodunits, but that was a little bit too much of a mismatch of genres for me as far as a superhero movie goes. So I didn't really enjoy it. Uh, well, it's not that I didn't enjoy it, it's just that I didn't have interest in watching that movie. So to this day, I have not watched The Winter Soldier. I got all the story beats, got the synopsis, I know what happens in it. I'm just not gonna watch it. Uh, so for this movie, people liken it to that because it's a relatively street based team. Uh, I mean, outside of Super Soldier Serum, what at least four of them have uh, an amalgamation or a version of the Super Soldier Serum. Ghost. That's not what Ghost has. Ghost has a some messed up version of the PIM particles, if I remember correctly, like an experiment going wrong with the PIM particles. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't acknowledge Taskmaster. Um, so yeah, all that
I
to
respect you even
compile.
more just for that.
Yeah, I don't acknowledge that. All that to compile to me not enjoying this movie for multiple reasons, but that's probably as surface levels I can get. So I'm gonna go with plot and story. Uh, mm, the plot was, I want to say, predictable. Once I figured out, or once they announced that the void was going to be in the movie, um, I knew that they couldn't do the Century story justice, his backstory, because his backstory is goaded. Like I could watch an entire series on just his backstory, Bob figuring out he was the Sentry in the first place. But they don't have the characters for that. Half the characters in that story in the comic are either old or dead, so they can't do that, or haven't been announced yet, like the Fantastic Four. Can't do it. Uh, but I knew they were going to shortchange the Sentry, which means they're going to shortchange the Void, which means I know exactly how they were going to beat the Void the second they announced it. Uh, they're
The
going to
power of friendship.
Yeah, they're gonna talk no jutsu him down. I hate that trope. So I knew I was not going to enjoy the movie before I even saw it, like months before I even saw it.
Okay, so I'm a little bit conflicted by that one because it sounds like you're mad that you knew everything that was going to happen. But here's the thing, it, it's the Sentry. Literally, he does not get his ass beat with fisticuffs. You have to use an alternate win condition. I know it sounds video gamey, but that's how he's always been. That's on brand. That's actually accurate to the character and source material.
Yeah,
Yes, his nickname is, or at least his power set is constantly described to be that of a million exploding suns.
and we have people like that, like literally that definition. Hyperion is literally that
Who
definition.
came first? Well,
No,
actually, Hyperion came first, but
no,
still,
yeah, but
Hyperion was just a basic ass Superman.
yeah, he was supposed to be an evil or a malicious Superman copy, just like his whole entire crew is supposed to be a malicious Justice League unholy trinity of the Holy Trinity.
Which is much more boring than Sentry, who is literally his biggest enemy literally is himself.
Yeah, like he can't stop being a dick, but Sentry, his biggest problem is himself, but on a mental breakdown type level. So I'm just not understanding why you were mad, because no one can touch him.
Which is why I'm trying to figure out why they threw this not team at him for a movie. Like, I get they need the new Avengers. I get that, which is also another point I want to touch on later. But like, why put the Sentry? The Sentry should be in like they need to build up the Sentry. In my opinion, they shortchanged the Sentry. They wasted an incredible not even origin. They wasted an incredible story. They could have if they really wanted to do like a whodunit Marvel series, they could have did it with the Sentry, finding out that he was. They could have did it with Bob, figuring out who he was. That would have sold like hotcakes. But instead, he's the backseat to the Void in a movie where he gets talked down by what is equivalently toddlers power wise. Like, I don't vibe with that. They wasted Taskmaster. They wasted the Sentry's on-screen debut, in my opinion.
I think they are very different levels of wasted.
Hey, he's allowed to have his difference of opinion.
Oh, no. I'm not saying like it's just like, no, I'm not mad or anything. I'm not. Yeah, you can.
Okay, because the way I see it, they basically had to do the Sentry like a more dangerous Hulk, which you really stop and think is kind of what he is. And that's why I like the parable of it. Because who was one of the first people to run away in abject terror from the Hulk? Black Widow. Who was one of the first people that truly got to know the man on the inside and ground him and be a legitimate friend to the Hulk? Black Widow. Now, switch that with Yelena and Sentry. Same shit. They know they cannot beat these super God tier levels of destructive motherfuckers. So what's the next best thing for a Widow to do? Appeal to their humanity. And the fact that she picked that up without having to talk to the Black Widow about how she got to know the man that is Bruce Banner works. It's a cool little parable because, first off, remember, they're supposed to be like the Avengers, but kind of sort of got that dysfunctional, hard criminal edge to them, even though they're called the Thunderbolts. But the Thunderbolts is basically the same as the Dark Avengers anyway. In fact, the Dark Avengers only got that title because Norman Osborn didn't want them to be called the Thunderbolts anymore, because that implies that they're criminals. So I liked it because I realized, oh shit, they took one of the oldest tropes and they made it work. They made the Beauty and the Beast bullshit all over again. But instead of turning him into a man, it's letting him understand that you can be a better person instead of just saying, hey, you don't have to be the monster. It's like, no, the monster does control you. You can control it. And helping him realize that as a group. Obviously, Yelena did the biggest amount of work, but that's just how it is. I like that that's how they did things. But then, I get what you're saying at the same time too, Pike, because my biggest problem was, like I said, they left out a Ghostface Killer. I can't remember her character's name for the life of me, but the girl who phases through everything, she
Ghost.
Ghost?
Her name is Ghost.
Okay, Ghost. Ghost, she never got touched by Bob and had that moment of depression. And neither did the Red Guardian. It was literally just Johnny Walker, Yelena, and Miss DeFontaine. So those three people, when it really should have been everyone on that team, minus Taskmaster, because Taskmaster is dead. Praise Marvel. So,
also, did you hear about the actor that came out and said he was originally what they were originally going to do with Taskmaster and Black Widow?
Yes, but that's not important right now. So I'm just saying, I totally understand why you're mad, and I can get it. It is a complete it is completely reasonable based on what you're saying. But also, I also like what I said because this is one of those situations where two things can be true. You are completely right, and you're right to feel that way. But I'm also completely right and right to feel that way because these are the characters who can't beat the supers. And if you throw them up against a super, what are they supposed to do? They have to think of something different. And that's why I like it. Because how does every other Marvel Avenger movie end? Oh, they get their ass beat in the beginning, but then they come back and beat their ass in the end. That didn't happen this time. Bob's still chilling, reading a book every day in a fucking $100 million, if not $1 million fucking skyscraper. Okay? That's not usually how that ends. But yeah, continue.
Uh, yeah. So I won't dwell on that too much more. I'll just give a positive and negative. A positive for the plot was it introduced the Century. Negative for the plot would be the movie. So I'm going to give that an. Mm,
Make sure you
I'll
use a
give it a.
different color.
Oh yeah, that's right. Hold on. Do something that should work. Can you see that? That's kind of dark. Mm,
No, it's fine. You just making the Italian flag colors.
yeah, that works. All right, fine. Um, we're gonna go with a C plus. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a C plus. Uh, the music and SFX. The score was fine. Um, I don't really have too. I did see it in IMAX. By the way, I you suggested I go see IMAX on my money back. Um, it's not bad. I've it fits a superhero movie. It's what I expect from Marvel. It's not bad. It's not blowing me out of the water. I guess
That is
if
the most scare shuffle thing I've heard come out of your mouth.
is that a compliment? I want that to be a compliment.
I still don't know.
Hmm.
You weren't here for
Uh,
it, but that is exactly what he said about like the Winter Soldier Captain America movie. That's like damn near exactly what he said.
well, um, I'm not sure how to even summarize the score because it's what you expect from a Marvel movie. Like outside of the triumphant um highs and the kind of almost non-existent like uh melancholy lows of like the falling conflict of the third act. um it's what you expect from a Marvel movie. And looking at the people that compose the score, it it's a it was a band called Sun Lux. They're very middle of the road. uh a lot of Asians, if that means anything. Probably doesn't. um yeah.
Need you to speak up a little more, bro.
I'm sorry, my voice tapers off usually when I speak. Um, I give the score a B on the sound. Um, I can't really say anything good or bad about it. It's a Marvel score, Marvel movie score. Characters, positives. Taskmaster. We don't have to deal with that anymore. That's a positive. Definitely a plus. Mm. Your I feel like they wasted Ghost a lot. They could have did more in the movie. The character development for um, U.S. Agent, I'm pretty. I wouldn't say excited, but I'm interested to see as to where they take the character because it's a stark difference from um, his character development in the comics. I like how Bucky's kind of more coming into himself, and the character arc from the first Avenger, Captain America movie, all the way until now is pretty. interesting for his character, his overall character. So I'm happy that he's going to be around a little bit more. They utilize him more. Excuse me, Yelena and you know it. I don't even know. I get they need a main character. I get she's like probably the best on screen talent besides the guy who plays Bucky, but she's not my favorite. She's okay. Um, honestly, she's not too far off from Scarlet, which um, as far as like on screen presence, I don't care if she's not doing anything on screen because if she was, it would probably give me the same effect. Um, I'll say this: I think she was better in the Black Widow movie than this. Uh, that's just me. I give the cast a B minus.
You are full of hot takes today, my dude.
I didn't really like the movie. It didn't blow me out of the
Nah, I'm
water.
not faulting. I'm just you have your opinion. Just damn hot takes.
Yeah. Um, Red Guardian. He tried so hard for comic relief, bro. Like none of it was organic in my opinion. As far as comic relief, his serious moments were fine,
I'm
I
gonna.
suppose, but like,
I'm not about to ruin your night
yeah,
over
that
weeds
meat
because you
wad
made
gif
no
from
sense
Aqua
to
Teen
me,
Hunger
to be
Force, I
honest.
get it.
I
It's
will
not making
just
me laugh, but I get it.
respectfully ask people to not do it around my equipment.
All right, let's see. VFX. This is probably the height of the movie for me, especially when the Void comes on screen and starts Chernobyling. Not Chernobyl. What's the word I'm looking? Hiroshima. There we go. Starts Hiroshimaing innocence. Um, turn them into shadows on the pavement. Yeah, that was really good. And those little alternate dimensions. Yeah, the VFX was. I'll give the VFX an A. Not A plus because you gave it an A minus and Zach's gave it a plus. So I'm gonna be middle of the road. Um, cinematography. Uh, well, I can't say it was middle of the road. It was better than I expected for a grounded superhero movie. Grounded, as far as grounded you can be with like that's I just it goes back to me. It all goes back to the century. A grounded superhero team, like when they were in the room pitching this movie, it was like, all right, so we got people that can't lift more than what 2 tons at the max on their team. Probably Red Guardian might be able to throw a car, maybe. Uh, John Walker's throwing a small. He's throwing a smart car. Bucky's throwing a smart car. Like they're not them. Yeah, let's hit him with a couple 100,000 suns. Yeah, let's see how that. Put that in print. We'll fix it in post. No, I don't like that. But when it comes to Jesus, where is it? Yeah, this movie makes me angry. The more I think about it. When it comes to cinematography, they did use a lot of Dutch angles, which made me happy. That's my visual pet peeve. I don't
You
like
got to
Dutch
explain
angles.
that to the crowd. That term, Dutch angles.
So a Dutch angle is basically a camera that's off center horizontally. Like, geez, what's an example? I don't want to say Inception because there are Dutch angles in there, but that's a masterpiece. I don't want to say Interstellar. There's a Dutch angle in there. There's a couple in there. That's a masterpiece too. 2001: A Space Odyssey, when uh, he's going to see himself in, like he's on his way to see himself in the past. Uh, there's a lot of Dutch, like that. Pretty much the whole scene is a Dutch angle. Like imagine you're taking a picture on your phone sideways, and you just turn your phone 20 degrees more sideways, so that it's not straight up and not straight down. It feels unnatural. That's a Dutch angle. Um, they didn't use any of those in this movie, so they are safe from my wrath. But as far as cinematography, it wasn't bad, especially. coupled with the choreography, when it gets vertical, when the Sentry is on screen and when the Void is on screen, the cinematography, like the VFX and the cinematography kind of blend, and we get vertical for the, you know, I don't want to say the first time in the movie, but the vertical from a low perspective, uh, it's pretty good. You really get a sense of space. Um, and then the intimate moments, there was a little bit of shaky cam for the intimate moments. I think Zach's touched on that. It was kind of like we're trying to connect with these characters. We don't need to like wobble, but uh, it wasn't too jarring. It didn't take me out of the experience really, but I'll give it a B plus. Um, yeah. One more thing I really want to touch on. If they were going to kill off Taskmaster, they could have just did that in the first. They could have did that in the first. Well, when they did kill off Taskmaster, they could have just actually have an actual Taskmaster. I'm sorry, Taskmaster. Taskmaster. They could have had an actual Taskmaster be the main antagonist of this movie. They could have killed off the one that everybody didn't like,
I
which they
kind
did.
of agree with that. I think Taskmaster, and again, not a fan of him, but Taskmaster could have been on DeFontaine's side for money, and everyone else is trying to convince her, hey, stop the bullshit. You need to be on our side. DeFontaine's going to kill you. And then when the Sentry starts losing his mind, you know, the Sentry just thumps and kills Taskmaster, still, thumping the brain because I want them to stay brain dead. And then DeFontaine could have said, well, I was going to do that anyway. And then everyone goes, yeah, we kind of figured.
Imagine if they had him do the cool thing where he flew up into space and ripped them in half.
Yeah, not for
That would be
not in the
extremely
House of Mouse.
wasteful. No,
Yeah.
that just wasteful.
Oh, I know. I mean, look, as I also said, I don't like that new Avengers Sentry in that new Avengers run, but I got to give credit where credit is due to the artist for that. Damn, that was cool.
I just think Taskmaster would have been a better, even an emotionally more impactful main villain for this movie. Taskmaster could have been throwing out Black Widow moves, Captain America moves, the Falcon moves for John Walker.
Yeah, it's just the version of Taskmaster we'd be working with. It wouldn't make much.
No,
It'd
I
be
mean,
hard to make it make sense. Like
in
if it
my
was the original
hypothetical, they'd be dead.
Taskmaster.
Yeah, in my hypothetical, it'd have been the original Taskmaster because the girl Taskmaster would have got killed.
Right. I personally think they should just wait until they inevitably reboot or soft reboot after Secret Wars to bring in the real one at this point.
Well, see, my whole thing is I wanted the motherfucker to die before they did any rebooting. Now I just want regular old actual Taskmaster because as far as villains go, he's one of the most unique. He's been on every side, and depending on how much money there is, he's on every side. So, and I think, this is before we all talk to each other. We all, just as people who know how stories work that are supposed to be long format, Marvel had a dumbass problem with fucking killing off their villains. Like, they should not be dying. They should have been going to jail. And not on some Batman Joker bullshit. I mean on that you're going to run out of enemies for them if you keep this up bullshit.
Yep, the first villains that they ever put in the raft were in the last Marvel movie, which was was it the Jesus, the
Yeah,
Hulk
literally,
villain.
the Netflix villains end up in Rikers minus Kingpin. Oh, no, he did at one point. The Netflix
He did,
villains,
and then he got out into a much fancier place.
He was on the
Yeah,
raft?
yeah, the Netflix villains ended up in Rikers, and the Marvel MCU villains, they were basically dying until they got to the last movie. Literally, the heroes went to jail before the villains did because they were just fucking dying. That's still funny to
Yeah.
me.
Asinine, really. The raft has been in those movies since um,
Civil War.
Civil War.
Right?
Yeah, Civil War, which means it had to have existed before Civil War. The raft has been there the entire time, specially built to hold superhumans, but they just put normal humans in there. They put Ant-Man and the Falcon in there, and who
Hey,
else
we
did
got
put in there?
Harrison Ford in there now, also known as the Red Hulk.
Now, like almost 20, well, not 20. Yeah. No.
2016 was Civil War.
Okay, so almost 10 years out. Almost 10 years out, we got an actual, not even a villain, just a not hero in the raft, which is insane.
Well, they stuck Leader in there now too, but he
Yeah.
wasn't. Technically, Leader was in a sort of a prison the whole time, but he wasn't a villain yet.
Yeah, he was off the grid. But what I'm saying is, they had the raft, and they didn't use it for the intended purpose, unless the intended purpose was to always put heroes in there when they started acting up.
That would be a cool storyline.
I wouldn't be shocked if something like that or a line like that was cut out of the original cut of Civil War.
I'd be shocked if they actually thought about it, because I have no faith in them.
Damn. I
have
never
faith in
seen
them from about 10
this
years
viciousness
ago, not now.
before. I am genuinely impressed with this level of viciousness. Don't get me wrong. I'm disagreeing 40% of the time, but damn.
Hey, look, I respect the authenticity.
City Morgue, you kill him, we chill him. But yeah, that's it for me.
I just like how if you really stop and look at our scores, it looks like I am kissing this movie's ass despite my genuine aggravation at key plot elements that break the storytelling and, suspension of disbelief. And then y'all got scores lower than mine. But it seems like almost Pike hates this shit more than both of us combined. Well, I mean, he obviously does, but I mean, like, the way you make it sound, it's like if Endgame not Endgame, if Doom don't deliver or Fantastic Four don't deliver, like, you gonna basically start a riot and start burning the films and shit in the theaters and stuff.
You're going to have to bail me out, because Doom he's not my favorite. He is the best Marvel villain. I'll fight that to the death.
Doom is my
people
and they're gonna fuck him up again.
I don't think most people disagree with you. Like, I've learned some shit about Doom that made me not want to read him, not because it was a shitty story, but because that level of fucking insecurity and disgust. Doom's biggest enemy is Doom. But yeah, with that being said, thank y'all for coming through, and I look forward to seeing y'all in the next time we do a video, when we talk about our struggles to get a Nintendo Switch 2. I will see you guys when I see you guys.